Hey, how you doing? It's Wednesday. It's time for a Whiskey Wednesday, and you know, hey, look, we had a little trouble, all right, getting everything kind of started up and ready to go, as it were, because it's just. Hold on. Now you can hear me. Just realized I had that muted. How's it going, everybody? It's another Whiskey Wednesday, and we've had all kinds of technical issues right off the get-go, so you know it's going to be good. You know it's going to be good if you've immediately had problems.
Just immediately. And there was probably an echo there because I just noticed the overhead cam wasn't muted. So there you go. Another issue. Yes! Nailed it though. Nailed it. Look, we're knocking them out as they come up. We're solving them as we go. Experience dictates what goes on in this stream. I've had experience with some technical issues. And the chat window isn't working on the on-screen display, so that's good. I'll have to fix that next time, because I don't have time to do that right now. And it looks like there might be a slight delay in the audio on the stream and the camera. Alright, more things to figure out and to fix for next time. Good to know. I'm excited to be here. Really, the reason that we've had a whole bunch of issues is because I had to set up everything, and I have only had time to do it today. Right after I got off my day job, I had to rush and get the entire stream recreated and set up to stream because I had to replace absolutely everything. My computer decided to take a poopy, and I had to replace the computer, so I had to reinstall all my software. I had to get the stream graphics and everything set up, and the microphones and everything. So we might have some issues today as we get everything set up again. But you know what? Like the second time you do it, like it's like easier, right? Like the first time I set this stuff up, like it took me days to get it right. Several streams to kind of figure out some things. And there were some things as I went along that I realized, hey, you know what? I could do this a little bit easier if I just redo it, and I just haven't had time. Well, now I had to make the time. So here we go. Now we're streaming on everything. Okay? There are some features I haven't built in yet, rebuilt back in yet. So I apologize, but I'll get them back up and running. I promise. We're on TikTok. Look at that. Look at that. Finally got it working. I have no idea how I'm going to keep my eye on the chat and stream at the same time. But you know, we got it working, okay? And that's the hard part. All right? We're up everywhere now. What are we reading today? We're reading Misadventures of a Cryptid Hunter by Michael Kelso. No, not that Michael Kelso, the author Michael Kelso. Although I do like that 70s show. It's a great show. This, however, is also a really great tale. Really funny. I haven't set up the whole author message thing, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read it out to you, okay? And I'm going to put the info here into chat for you. But I'm gonna read it off to you because I didn't have time to set up all the animation and all that kind of stuff. So let's just read it out. The author, Michael Kelso, lives in a small town in Pennsylvania. He's a former corrections officer turned author, and thank goodness he turned author because we have this fantastic tale to bring to you today. The first chapter of Misadventures of a Cryptid Hunter, and it is fantastic. It's one of my favorite reads that I have done. It's funny. It's so good. I love the character. Like right away, you just immediately dip into our character, who is a park ranger, and we'll understand him almost immediately, which is great. A little bit about the book. So let me switch to that. About that park ranger, he never believed in cryptids until Bigfoot changed everything. Spoiler: a reluctant hero, a wild journey, and a big stinky pile of destiny. Misadventures of a Cryptid Hunter is chaos and comedy. And it definitely is. It is fantastic in every way, and I really hope that you all enjoy this. So what we're going to be doing is like we normally do, we're going to go down into the booth and we're going to record this live. So, with live, there's some inherent things that could go wrong. So bear with me as we run into those issues. We'll fix them. All right. So, hello everybody on TikTok. If you're joining in and watching, hopefully this is working okay. I have no idea really if it is or not, but thank you anybody who is in there right now. I literally can't see how it normally looks. I'm using TikTok Studio and I can't tell if there's anybody like sending a message, if they're joining. Wow, this is bad. Oof, that's gonna be a problem because then I'm not gonna be able to like interact. I'll figure that out. There's probably a better way. Let me actually try something really quick before. I might be able to do it this way through TikTok Studio. Is there a... I don't... Ah. Oh, okay. Ah, I have to enable it. Let me see here. If I can I? That's not working the way that I thought it would. Okay, that's not gonna work either. Okay, yeah, I don't think there's a way. Yeah, that's not, well, whatever. We tried. It's not gonna work that way. Okay, that's fine. It's okay. You don't have to worry about it. We'll just carry on. And I will apologize in advance if I don't talk to you on TikTok because I literally can't see the chat. This is not optimal. Can I do it this way? I'm trying. Hold on. Let me see if I can. I can. Did that do it right? Nope. Dude, that's a bummer. Like, if I can't see like who's joining on TikTok, how am I gonna converse with you? I'm gonna chat with you. Thank you for joining. We're gonna be doing a live recording of an audiobook. The first chapter of it here for Whiskey Wednesday. Speaking of Whiskey Wednesday, we gotta do the whole whiskey thing, right? Because it wouldn't be Whiskey Wednesday without the actual whiskey. I mean, come on, right? So what are we drinking? What are we drinking today? Boo-boo! Right here, we're drinking, I've been kind of fitting. It's, now, Michael Kelso normally writes, the author of Misadventures of Cryptid Hunter, which we're about to read, normally writes a lot of, horror and stuff. And I guess this could be horror. But it's horror comedy, right? And he's recently released a new book into his zombie series that he's writing. And I think it's really fitting to have Spirits of the Apocalypse, Walking Dead, right here. Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey on Whiskey Wednesday. So let's go to the pour cam here, set ourselves up a little pour, have a taste, and then get down to our booth and start recording. How about that? Give a nice handsome pour. And it's a twist cap, so we don't get the boom, unfortunately. It's alright. We don't need it. We don't need it. Oh yeah. Man, it smells like a bourbon. It hits you right in the face, right in the very beginning there. Oh yeah. Punches like a bourbon too. That's nice. actually pretty sweet. Right away, hit you with that nice bourbon burn. But it's kind of sweet, pleasant, and got a little bit of a bite on the back end. There's a little bit of bitterness on the back end. But definitely good. Would I drink it neat like this just for funsies? Again, not sure. Maybe. But I'd probably rather use it as like a mixer, to be honest. It's not bad though. And it's growing on me the more I have of it. Right? Yeah. Alright, we'll save a little bit of that for when we come back up here and talk after the recording. Because, you know, whiskey's not the best maybe to have in the recording booth. Probably should have water. It's pretty hot today. It's, doesn't say. I know it was in the upper 80s, so maybe early 90s. Not in the triple digits, thankfully, where it has been, because it has been cooking here in Northern California. We had a little reprieve last week where it came down a little bit. We even got a little bit of rain, which was nice. But it's cooking back up here again, so gotta keep it cool in that booth, right? Keep yourself hydrated with water. What are you drinking tonight? You enjoying it? Hopefully, on this Whiskey Wednesday. Okay, again, we're gonna read Misadventures of a Cryptid Hunter, the first chapter by Michael Kelso. Comedy, chaos, cryptids, Bigfoot. Need I say more? Not really. Oh, I was gonna do one thing before we go down into the booth. I was going to make sure that I have a certain thing running on my controller so that I can kind of control this from the booth downstairs, because I don't know if it's set up for me to do that, and I want to make sure it is. Okay, hold on. Settings. Yes. Application. Okay, I want to make sure that we're going to allow the connectivity. I have this fear that I'm going to be running back up here in just a second. I just saw it. There's a setting for remote control, and I think okay, the remote connections are set. Just checking on some technical stuff right before we jump into the booth downstairs and start this whole recording thing, so just give me just a second. Connection 1. Enable KVM control. Okay, that's on there. On the actual source itself. Okay, I think we're good. I'm gonna be running back up here. I know it. I'm gonna be running back up here. Alright, tell you what. This is what I'm gonna do. Normally, I'd switch us down to a like a be right back screen, and you'd watch the dancing chicken. I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna switch to the booth, and then I'll just run down there as fast as I can. So just give me like literally a minute to get down there. I have to go downstairs into the garage to get to the booth. So let's just do that. Let's switch it over. Man, I'll try. I hope this. Yeah, because I can't even control that from here if it doesn't work. Bummer, dude. It is what it is. Let's just switch it over, and hopefully everything's working, okay? Here we go. I'll see you all down there in just a minute. right. Okay, I am on my way down the stairs. I almost forgot to add in the audio source. That would have sucked. All right, I am on my way down into the booth. You will see me pop in there in just a second, and we'll get this reading started.
So, I decided to start the stream an hour earlier today, and it is kicking my butt. There's just all these things I didn't think about. Like, as I'm coming running down the stairs, it took me an even longer second because I hadn't fed the dog yet. Dog's looking at me like, hey, where's my food? So, okay, hold on. She is a Great Dane Weimaraner, and she is not shy about asking for her food. So she would be in here like, hurry. Okay. All right. So it looks like we have most of that set up. Good. I did that before the stream at least. Okay. And we started this at... There we go. At 5 today. Try to get an early start on it. And then later on, we'll be back here on TikTok doing the whole streaming thing. We're doing an audiobook, actually a fantasy adventure tonight. Let me see if... Hold on for a second here. You're going to see window and window inception because I need to see if I can... yeah, see? I knew it. I knew it wasn't going to let me control it. Oh, this is such a bummer. Yeah, see, everything's enabled, but it doesn't allow me to actually do it. Oh, man. I could try to close it and open it up again, but that might crash the entire thing. So, you know what? But I can't switch and see chat. Oh, man. Okay. Well, I gotta run upstairs and do it then. Well. Here's it. Technical difficulties. Yay. Hey, but we're streaming. That's half the power. Okay, give me one more second. Like 30 seconds. Let me run upstairs, minimize something so I can actually see you talk maybe. Even though I'm not going to be able to see TikTok chat because it doesn't look like it's showing up. But I'm going to try anyways. So I'll be right back. Give me just one more second and we'll start this, okay? My apologies. Okay. Whew. Getting my cardio in, right? See, I didn't go on that walk earlier today because I was trying to get all this set up. I'm making up for it now. You know, I'm just sprinting. Just sprinting. Oh, and there's like one tiny small swallow of water. Nom, 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 nom. All right. Okay. A certain purple place is on a break at the moment, an ad break. So I'm going to grab a bottle of water and then let's get started, okay? Okay. I'm going to take a sip. Let's get going. Okay. Hopefully y'all are doing good tonight. Hello, hello, hello there, TikTok. I apologize in kind of advance here. Unfortunately, I can't see the chat because of the way that I'm streaming. I'm trying to use TikTok Studio to do it so that I can do the overlay and give you kind of like a double view of like the screen that I'm using to do the recording and be able to see me at the same time. And that's not working. That's not working because I can't see the chat. So thank you very much if you're in the chat right now or you're in the TikTok stream and you're watching. Thanks for all the likes. I know a couple came in. Thank you so much. Later tonight, we'll be doing exclusively TikTok. And I can see the chat because it's on the way that I record it through the phone. So I'm just going to do that. I will figure this out, though. I will combine the chatterinos and we'll be able to... I'll get it working. I just crash course today. Had a couple of hours to set this all up. So my apologies. It's going to be rough. Let's get into the narration, shall we? Thank you again if you're joining me on TikTok. I can't quite see what you're saying, but thank you for joining and thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoy this Misadventures of a Cryptid Hunter by Michael Kelso. Let's get into it. Let's close this booth and get it going. All right. Let's do a quick little test. Make sure test. Test. Okay, cool. All right. Recording test. Recording test. Okay, cool. We are recording with no issues. Let's get it going. Misadventures of a Cryptid Hunter by Michael Kelso. Misadventures of a Cryptid Hunter by Michael Kelso. Chapter 1. Okay, let's get to it. I hate being a park ranger. There, I said it. It's nice to finally get it off my chest. It's not like there's any one specific thing that makes it so bad. It's a combination. The pay sucks. The health insurance is non-existent. And dear God, there's no answer. The health insurance is non-existent. The pay sucks. Combination. The pay suck. I don't like that. I'm gonna redo the whole thing. Hold on. I don't like how I started it. We're gonna start over. I hate being a park ranger. There, I said it. It's nice to finally get it off my chest. It's not like there's any one specific thing that makes it so bad. It's a combination. The pay sucks. The health insurance is non-existent. Dear God, don't ever forget to hose yourself down with... Dear God is non-existent. Dear God, don't ever forget to hose yourself down with bug spray during the warmer months. I have a case of it I keep in my car. I found out the hard way when I was down near the lake and was set upon by a swarm of mosquitoes. And the ticks get into places you wouldn't imagine. These are minor annoyances. There's also the other part of the job, and the dangerous part. There's annoyances.
There's also the other part of the job, the dangerous part. I'm not talking about people being idiots and having to swoop down from the top of a ravine to rescue them. Yeah, that's there. In my opinion, that's called natural selection. If they were close enough to the edge to fall, then that's on them. No, I'm talking about those incidents either them. No, I'm not talking about those incidents either. I'm talking about real danger. I'm not supposed to say anything, but I'm tired of the code of silence. That's why I'm writing this. It goes without saying that I won't use anyone's real name, including the park. That should keep me out of trouble. I started working here as a park ranger around a year ago. It seemed nice at first to get out and enjoy nature. I'm sure nature would laugh at that since she seems to be set on killing people. Between storms, falling trees, landslides, wildfires, and not to mention cryptids, nature is not exactly man's best friend. At least in this park. Every evening at dusk, some of us rangers drive around to the trailheads to make sure there's no car sitting around. If there is, we take the license number and call the police to see if the person has been reported missing. If there are no cars, we lock the gates. This evening, I had just finished locking the gate down by the lake. It had been a while since I'd been near any restrooms, and the nearest one was half a mile away. I was responsible for this side of the lake, so I knew no other rangers would be around. I glanced left and right, then whipped out and added a little more fluid to the lake. As I was relieving myself, this huge, hairy creature stepped out of the forest about 50 feet away from me and approached the lake. It bent over, pulling water out of the lake with its massive hands and bringing it up to its mouth to drink. After the third handful, it noticed me for the first time. It saw what I was doing, then spat the mouthful of water back out into the lake. We both froze. You know that oh crap moment when you catch someone doing something they shouldn't at the same time you're doing something you shouldn't? Like when you're on duty and coming out of the liquor store with a brown bag and you see a coworker buying a bag of weed. You both stare at each other, hoping that the other one would be the guilty one. When you're on duty and coming out of... I want to start that over. I didn't like the inflection. Like, when you shouldn't? Like, when you're on duty and coming out of the liquor store with a brown bag and you see a coworker buying a bag of weed. You both stare at each other, hoping that the other one will be the one to feel guilty and walk away first. But neither of you do. You just stand there. That's what we did. We just stood there, looking at each other, this creature and I. Was I scared? Hell yeah, I was scared. This thing was freaking huge. You remember that part in Star Wars where Han tells 3PO that Wookiees are known to rip people's arms out of their sockets? Start getting a frog in my throat. Hold on. Was I scared? Hell yeah, I was scared. This thing was freaking huge. You remember that part in... Huge. You remember that part in Star Wars where Han tells 3PO that Wookiees are known to rip people's arms out of their sockets? That's what I was thinking this thing might do. I mean, it was big enough to give Chewie a swirly. The thought of my arms being forcefully and painfully removed from my body bounced around in my head so much I started sweating. They say animals can smell fear. I bet I smelt like I had just walked out of a Saw movie marathon. Neither one of us moved. Too much pause. Marathon. Neither one of us moved. Me out of total terror, him out of... How the hell should I know what the thing was thinking? All I knew was it wasn't running away. It didn't take... away. I didn't take that as a good sign. I took that as him looking at me and someone in the background ringing the dinner bell. Finally, after a long moment of this insane standoff, my shaking hand reached for my cell phone. Finally, after a long moment of this insane standoff, my shaking hand reached for my cell phone. Nope, just phone. Finally, after a long moment of this insane standoff, my shaking hand reached for my phone. Much to my surprise and relief, it took off into the woods at inhuman speed. Against my better judgment, I followed as best I could, but soon lost sight of it. I came back to the shoreline and found huge footprints. My phone shook in my hands, making it nearly impossible to take a clear picture. I steadied it long enough to snap the shot, then stared at my prize, a footprint of a Bigfoot. I took several more pictures, then went to the station to show everyone, knowing that proof like this would make me a legend.
"That's super," Ron said with a laugh. "Did you get a picture of the tooth fairy, too?"
The room erupted with laughter as all the rangers, even the ones I considered to be friends, turned on me.
"No, that would be a fae," said Sharon, "not a Sasquatch. Don't you know anything, Ron?"
"Did it give you any beef jerky?"
Jeff said, causing the group to erupt with even more laughter.
"Now, come on," Nancy said. "Let's be realistic."
I'm going to switch their voices. A little bit. Because I think, let me scroll ahead here. I think Jeff shows back up. And, no, it was wrong. Okay. I'm not. That's what I was thinking. Okay. Okay, here we go.
Realistic.
Let me check in with the chat here real quick. Okay, cool. I think we're all cut up. All right.
Let's be realistic. Stick.
My hopes soared that someone might believe me. Tell me, Rumble.
Stick.
My hopes soared that someone might believe me.
You really don't think there's any beef in that jerky, do you?
Nancy said.
Do you?
Nancy said. My hopes crashed like the Obama economy.
"Hey, shut up, all you idiots,"
Dell said, pulling me aside.
"Let me see that phone."
I handed it to him, feeling my hopes rise again. He looked through the pictures one by one. His face was set. I couldn't read his emotions. He didn't seem to react with surprise or disbelief. When he was done looking through them, he scrolled back and deleted every picture that had anything to do with the creature.
"What the hell?"
I said, grabbing my phone.
"I'm doing you a favor,"
he said.
"You don't want to go down that road. It only leads to bad things."
I stared at my phone in shock. I couldn't believe someone I trusted, someone I looked up to, the most senior ranger in the station, had just destroyed evidence of this mythical creature's existence.
"But it was real,"
I said.
"I saw it."
Chuckles sounded from around the room. Dell turned and silenced them with a look.
"Why don't you take tomorrow off and get your head clear?"
he said. I found myself nodding, not really sure why he was guiding. Nodding, not really sure why, as he guided me out of the station toward my car.
"Enjoy yourself," he said. "Go do something relaxing. You've had a hard day."
I started toward my car, Dell watching me the entire time. As soon as he stepped back inside, I could hear another roar of laughter. I knew it was at my expense. I got into my car in a daze. It wasn't until I stared at my phone that I realized just how violated I felt. I drove home and sat in the kitchen staring at the wall. I know I saw it, I kept telling myself. I pondered what to do with no evidence and no one to back me up. An idea came to me. I started looking for Bigfoot traps online. I looked up how to trap a Bigfoot and got some very interesting ideas. The next day, I went and bought some bear traps. When I drove to work the following morning, When I got to work the next When I drove to work the following morning, I got there early and quietly transferred my bear traps to the state truck I would be using that day. I went inside and greeted the other rangers. They all seemed aloof and holding back like they were waiting for something to happen. I went inside and greeted the other rangers. They all seemed aloof and holding back like they were waiting for something to happen. I went inside. Why didn't that start? I went inside and greeted the other rangers. They all seemed aloof and holding back like they were waiting for something to happen. I rounded the corner to the lockers and found out what. My locker had been covered in Bigfoot pictures. There was even one with a picture of a naked woman and Chewbacca's head taped over hers. The caption, written in, said, "Come find me, big boy." This is why I hate people. I did my best to ignore it as the titters and chuckles sounded behind me. I said nothing and went to my truck. I sat there for a long time trying to get the rage to bleed off, but all I could think of was revenge. That taught me the hard lesson. Keep your mouth shut. I learned that lesson well, but the damage was already done. The other rangers were already calling me a freak and a joke. That pissed me off, but also strengthened my resolve. It would have been easy to quit right there, but I was determined to prove myself. That I... but I was... There. But... There. But... Let's string it all together a little bit more. It would have been easy... Resolve. It would have been easy to quit right there, but I was determined to prove myself, that I was as good as they were. That wasn't... It would have been easy to quit right there. Nah. Let's try it again. Resolve. It would have been easy to quit right there, but I was determined to prove myself, that I was as good as they were, that I wasn't crazy, that this thing really existed. As the man said, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. As the man said, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I started patrolling down by the lake more often, looking for my prey where I had seen it last, but I had the sinking suspicion that it was watching me, that it knew me, that it knew I would be... But I had the sinking suspicion that it was watching me. Okay, me. Watching me. Right there. That it was watching me. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, I still can't see the chat on TikTok. That is so annoying. Well, if you're in the TikTok, thank you very much for watching, and we're recording live the first chapter of Michael Kelso's Misadventures of a Cryptid Hunter, and it's fantastic. A little humor mixed in with your Bigfoot. Say less, right? All right. It was watching me. Okay, it was watching me. There we go. Me. That it knew I was hunting it. I tried to be nonchalant about it at first. I'd just drive by, looking around like a good ranger should. But after a while, I started getting impatient. I would spend more time there than the rest of my route. It got to the point where people would come up to me and ask for help, but I would ignore them or scuttle. I would spend more time impatient. I would spend more time there than the rest of my route. It got to the point where people would come up to me to ask, impatient. I would spend more time there than the rest of my route. It got to the point where people would come up to me and ask for help, but I would ignore them or shuttle them off to another ranger. I started getting proactive in my hunt. I found a deer carcass near the place I'd seen the creature and set the bear traps up around it. Then I stalked out the area and waited for a long time. People came up to me. I ignored them. Animals came up to me. I ignored them. The only thing I was focused on was finding my prey. Morning turned to afternoon, turned to evening with no results. I sighed in resignation when it came time to close the gates. I decided to go home and let the traps do the work for me. The next morning, I overslept. I drove like a madman to get to work. Let's leave a little bit more pause. Morning, hi. For me. The next morning, I overslept. I drove like a madman to get to work, more specifically to get back to my stakeout. Imagine my surprise when I came back and found I had caught something in my trap. A fellow ranger. Ron lay on the ground screaming. I went over to help him. "Are you okay?" I said. "No, dumbass. I have a giant metal jaw attached to my leg." I fumbled with the trap, trying to get it open, only to have it snap shut on his leg again. "What the hell are you doing?" he said. "Are you too stupid to open a trap?" I stopped and stared at him. "At least I'm not stupid enough to step into one." "Screw you." I stood to leave. "Where are you going?" I whipped around on him. "Screw you," I said. "I come over here to help you, and you're treating me like some piece of crap. Get out of your own damn trap." I started walking away. "Okay," he said. I stopped and turned. "Okay, what?" "Okay, I'm sorry. Will you please help me out of this trap?" I paused for a moment, then went back. "All right. I've never opened a trap before," I lied. "Tell me what to do." "These are the springs," he said. "Press down on them and it'll open the jaws." Once the jaws were open, he pulled his injured leg free. "Thank God," he said, checking out his injured leg. "Who put that trap there anyway?" "No clue," I lied. I drove Ron straight to the hospital to get him taken care of. Once he was in a room and being treated, I left. But there was the matter of the illegal bear trap that had injured a park ranger. Dell was not happy. He pulled me into his office. I can't believe this happened," he said. "I've known Ron for years. He's a good friend and a good ranger. The person responsible for this will pay. I'll see him strung up by his entrails." "Yes, sir," I said. "This should never happen on park grounds. It's a deliberate assault, and I won't rest until I see Ron's killer behind bars." "He's not dead, sir." "Whatever, you get the point," he said. "And what do you know about this?" "Me?" I said, feigning ignorance. "Why would you ask me?" He shot me a steely glare. "You know exactly why," he said. I was feeling the metaphorical handcuffs clicked closed around my wrists. "Because you didn't listen to me and let this Bigfoot thing go," he said. "Other rangers have seen you hanging around where you saw that thing. I'm thinking maybe you saw the person who set that trap." I took a breath, feeling the handcuffs fall off my wrists. "There have been a few unsavory types hanging around," I said. "I want you to track them down and find out who did this to one of my rangers," he said, slamming his fists on his table. "That's desk, not fists, it's fist. But I read something not even there," he said. "Rangers," he said, slamming his fist on his desk. "Yes, sir," I said as I walked out of his office. I couldn't believe it. I was off the hook. I was in charge of my own investigation. Stopping to think about it, it made perfect sense that he chose me. It was a crap job that no one else wanted to do, but I was going to do it to the absolute best of my ability, I thought sarcastically. Yes, sir. I won't rest until I'm brought to justice. You can count on me, sir. I waited until I was a mile down the road before I started laughing. I went to the crime scene and explored it very carefully. Back and forth, over and over, I went through the area until there were no tracks anywhere that weren't mine. Of course, the only tracks before were mine too, and of course, Ron's. As an added bonus to tracking myself, I was able to do it in the area of the sighting, continuing my search for the creature. It was a win-win for me. Thank you, Ron, you idiot, for blundering into that trap and giving me the best assignment I could possibly have, I thought. As the days went by, and I searched for myself in vain, I came across an area not too far from the lake, where there was a cave with a well-worn. Where there was a. As the days went by and I searched for myself in vain, I came across an area not too far from the lake where there was a cave with a well-worn path to it. At first, I thought it was a bear cave, but then I found a couple of the tracks that had been deleted off my phone by a certain ranger. I took pictures of the tracks and made sure I sent them to myself by email. I also kept my mouth shut about it, at least to all my idiot co-workers. My mind playfully wondered how many more I could trick into a bear trap, or maybe something worse. I smiled as I chided myself for such thoughts. Suddenly, I felt something was wrong. The birds stopped singing. I turned to find the creature standing 4 feet from me. I was amazed at how silent it moved. My amazement quickly gave way to fear as a yellow river ran down the inside of my pants. I was amazed at how silent from me. I was amazed at how silent it moved. My amazement quickly gave way to fear as a yellow river ran down the inside of my pants. It was even more huge up close, at least 8 feet tall and completely covered in brown hair. It had its brown hair. It had bared its teeth and was flexing its massive hands. For some reason, I don't think it liked me very much. Go figure. It lunged at me with impossible speed. I tried to dodge, but my foot got stuck in a tree root and I tripped. I fell backwards and landed hard on my back, knocking the wind out of me. I lay there, helpless at the mercy of this beast. All it had to do was carry me into its cave, and I would never... Beast. What? Beast. All it had to do was carry me into its cave, and I would never be seen again, except in smelly little piles hours later. That was a happy thought. Hours later. That was a happy thought. I tried to regain my normal breathing, surprised it hadn't dragged me away yet. As I came around and the stars floating around my head turned back into trees, I saw the creature lying face down a few yards from me. I rose slowly and approached. I could see its back rising and falling, so I knew it was still breathing. I took out my phone and took pictures just in case it didn't kill me or in case it got up and ran away. I even leaned close and took a selfie with it in the background. Just then, it took a slightly deeper breath and I skittered away. When it didn't jump up and rip my arms out of my sockets, I took a closer look. There was a little blood lying beside it. There was a little blood lying beside its head. There was a little blood lying beside its head, which was resting on top of a big rock. Apparently, when it lunged at me, it wasn't counting on me falling, and it dove right into a rock, knocked itself cold. This was it. The golden goose had pulled a muscle in its wing while it flew over me and landed in my lap. I was fighting a burp that whole time. Let's try that again. And landed in... While it flew over me, the golden... was it. This was it. The golden goose had pulled a muscle in its wing while it flew over me and landed in my lap. I ran to the truck, grabbed the tranquilizer gun and a lot of netting. As I ran back, I thought of it not wanting to be there. As I ran back to the thought of it not being there. What? As I ran back, the thought of it not being there drove me to distraction. Got it? As I ran back, a lot of netting. As I ran back, the thought of it not being there drove me to distraction. All my hard work of luck into this perfect scenario. Okay, yeah. I was reading it right. Hold on. All my hard distraction. All my distraction. All my hard work of luck. Distraction. All of my hard work of lucking into this perfect scenario would have been for nothing. I ran as fast as I could, carrying the big net on my back. A big net. I ran as fast as I could, carrying a big net on my back, and prayed it was still there. When I got there, it was stirring and tried to get up. I dropped the net and fumbled with the tranquilizer gun, nearly shooting myself in the process, until I finally aimed. It saw me just as I pointed the gun at it. Our eyes locked. It was a magical moment, until I squeezed the trigger and sent him back to La La Land. He probably wasn't going to be too happy when he woke, though. I accidentally shot him in the crotch. I made sure to reload the gun, just in case, then tried to roll him over onto the netting. Then tried to roll him over onto the netting. He felt like he weighed 1,000 pounds. I racked my brain on how to get him out of there and eventually came up with a solution. I backed the truck up through a half-mile of trees, leaving scratches on the sides and almost leaving a rear-view mirror behind. I managed to get close enough to hook the net onto the trailer hitch. I managed to get close enough to hook the net onto the trailer hitch. I dragged him out to the road and stopped to figure out my next move. My house was 10 miles away. If I dragged him the whole way there, If I dragged him the whole way there, I would have left all I would have left there. Sorry. Miles away. If I dragged him the whole way there, all I would have left would be a Bigfoot burger. I couldn't lift him, and it was after hours, so there was no one else around to help me get him into the truck bed. Not that I really wanted anyone else to see him. I panned around and found the solution. There was a small embankment, maybe 4 feet high. I drove the truck onto it, and then drove very carefully straight down it. I was terrified I would flip the truck end over end, and that would be the end of my little adventure. But I just kept moving slowly as the front wheels touched down and kept going. Next was the tricky part. I got the back wheels on the ground, then gunned it forward and slammed it in reverse. His head was hanging over the edge when I backed up, and I accidentally pinned it between the gate. I started to laugh, because I'm like imagining this. His head. Get it out, giggles. All right. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's really funny. I think, like, a lot of the challenge of reading this book would be not laughing, which I've already had to do like 3 times. All right. His head was hanging. All right, his head. Okay. No more giggles. Here we go. Reverse. His head was hanging over the edge when I backed up, and I accidentally pinned it between the truck. Reverse. His head was hanging over the edge when I backed up, and I accidentally pinned it between the truck gate and the dirt bank. I pulled forward a little and grabbed the netting, pulling with every ounce of strength I had. Ever so slowly, his prone body inched forward until he reached the tipping point and rolled onto the bed of the until he reached forward until he reached the no, I can't do it right there. I got to start over. Ever so slowly, his prone body inched forward until he reached the tipping point and rolled into the bed of the truck. When he flopped down, one of his feet hit the back window and shattered it. Great, I thought. Hey, boss, when I was capturing the creature you said didn't exist in the company vehicle, I broke a window. Is that covered by our insurance? I was breathing hard until I was done. I covered him with a tarp and drove away, racking my brain about where I would take him. As I was thinking, I passed a storage unit that was somewhat remote. It was just off the back road I was on, and it didn't seem like much traffic passed this way. Tummy rumble. It was just somewhat remote. It was just off the back road I was on, and didn't seem like much traffic passed this way. I called up and rented a unit with my credit card, then showed up and backed the truck up to it. My cargo was starting to stir again as I arrived, so I gave it another dose of the tranquilizer and dragged it off the truck as best I could. My cargo was starting to stir again as I arrived, so I gave it another dose of tranquilizer and dragged it off the truck as best I could, meaning it flopped over and nearly crushed me. Not all of it was inside, and I couldn't close the door, so I turned the truck around and gently pushed it inside with the front bumper before closing and locking the door. Next came the tricky part. I couldn't go on Craigslist and advertise, "One Bigfoot, slightly used, 50 million or best offer." Fortunately, I knew a guy who had a cousin's brother who knew another guy's best friend who knew someone who knew someone he'll... This one's tricky. All right, let's do this again. Who had a cousin's... Knew a guy who had a cousin's brother who knew another guy's best friend who knew someone else's... Knew a guy who... I'm going to start the whole thing over. Offer. Fortunately, I knew a guy who had a cousin's brother who knew another guy's best friend who knew someone else who might be able to get me in contact with someone who doesn't exist. I printed a few of the pictures, wrote a number with lots of zeros in it, and sent it through the information chain. All right, how'd that sound? I'm going to go back and listen to that. Make sure that flows together. Fortunately, I knew a guy who had a cousin's brother who knew another guy's best friend who knew someone else who might be able to get me in contact with someone who doesn't exist. I printed a few of the pictures, wrote a number with lots of zeros in it, and sent it through the information chain. I got a phone call 2 hours later from someone who doesn't exist. He met me at the storage unit with a lot of heavily armed men dressed in black combat gear and no identifying patches. He met me at the storage unit with a lot of heavily armed men dressed in black combat gear and no identifying badges. When we got there, the door was under assault. It had lots of newly formed dents in it, and the sides were looking like they weren't going to hold much longer. My friend apparently had woken up and wasn't very happy with his new surroundings. I offered to open the door just an inch and hit him with another tranq dart, but the man waved me off. The heavily armed gentleman worked with practiced precision. They flung open the door and threw a containment net over him as he tried to run past them. Within moments, he was incapacitated. As they carried him out, his eyes landed on me. They narrowed, and he let out a menacing growl. menacing growl.
I'd say you've made a new friend,
the man said, handing me a business card with a number on it and nothing else. What's this for? I said.
If you come across any more creatures of such a mythical nature, give me a call. Maybe we can help with the capture of the next one.
Are you nuts? You saw that thing. It's huge and it wants to kill me.
And yet here you are, very much alive.
He reached into his pocket and pulled out a check.
And very wealthy.
I peered at the check, and then... How'd it tummy rumble? I peered at the check, and then back at him. He grinned.
Might I suggest you not spend too much and raise suspicions?
So, you would pay me this much for each one of these things I found? He nodded. Come on, Tommy, stop. He nodded. He nodded. He nodded. My tummy's making noises. All right, catch up on chat. All right, if that's still working, I think we're good so far. Oh, you know what? I can't see Instagram at all. Well, hopefully there's nobody on there talking.
I can't see you, sorry.
All right. He nodded. He nodded.
And you would help me catch it?
He nodded again.
Looks like you've bought yourself a park ranger, I said, offering my hand.
He shook it.
Pleasure doing business with you,
he said, then turned and walked away. All right, chapter break, and we're almost at the end here. Just one little part left, like a little half page. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying this on the TikTokers and the places that we're streaming tonight. I'll be back on later streaming a fantasy novel after this. So if you're on TikTok and you're here right now and you like the narration, we're going to be jumping to a different story, but I'll be narrating some more after this. So stay tuned. But let's get to the end of this one. This one is Misadventures of a Cryptid Hunter by Michael Kelso. And it's fantastic, and hopefully you're all enjoying it. So let's jump in and finish this thing. All right, here we go. Temptation is a terrible thing. I was tempted to... Temptation is a terrible thing. I was tempted to buy a brand new Ferrari and drive it to work just to shove it in the noses of the idiots who made fun of me. But then I realized that success is the best revenge. If I could nab another creature or two, I could buy my own little island and retire. I'm thinking maybe Hawaii. My investigation into the bear trap took me to a place where I'd heard there's been some trouble lately with missing hikers. Not that I really cared about the hikers. In this park, I think we should rename the trails for which cryptids hunt on it. That way, when hikers ignore the warnings and blunder into the dens of these dangerous creatures, they'll only have themselves to blame. I'm thinking maybe I can make my job easier by buying the land that has... I'm thinking maybe I can make... I'm thinking maybe I can make my job easier by buying the land that has the cryptid I'm looking for and then clear-cut all the trees. Oh, man. Let's try this again. Blam. I'm thinking maybe I can make my job... Blam. I'm thinking maybe I can make my job easier by buying the land that has the cryptid I'm looking for and then clear-cut all the trees so it has no place to hide. I know what you're thinking. It would just run away to another spot. Not the way I would clear-cut. Start with 100 machines on the outside of the property and work our way into the center, so it has nowhere to go. I scanned... I don't like my inflection on that. Let's try that again. I'm thinking maybe I can make my job easier by buying the land that has the cryptid I'm looking for, and then clear-cut all the trees so it has no place to hide. I know what you're thinking. It would just run away. Hide. I know what you're thinking. It would just run away to another spot. Not the way I would clear cut. Start with 100 machines on the outside of the property and work our way into the center so it has nowhere to go. As I scanned around the land and daydreamed, a hiker came running up to me.
Please, you need to help me,
she said. What's the problem? I said, feeling less than interested. So let's make that less than interested, shall we?
Please, you need to help me,
she said. What's the problem? I said, feeling less than interested.
My husband and brother, they were attacked.
By an animal? She lowered her eyes.
I don't really know what it was. It seemed unnatural.
My ears perked up, and I became laser-focused on helping this poor woman. Don't worry, ma'am. Show me where it happened, and I'll take care of it.
Thank God,
she said as we started down the trail.
I was worried you wouldn't believe me.
Trust me, ma'am. I want to find out what happened as much as you do. Alrighty. There we go. And we have come to the end. I'm just going to export this one real quick so I don't forget, because that would be a boomer. Misadventures of the Cryptid Hunter. This one is a raw file. And then I had to do a project here that I'll be talking about in a little bit in the future when we're getting ready to release it. But it was an audio drama I got cast for the main role of, and I'll be talking about that later. It has to do with maybe some paranormal investigators. Really cool. We'll talk about that more in a little bit, but or on another stream probably as I get more details and ask what I can share and what I can't. So I'm just going to say that, yeah, you know, I might have gotten a role, and maybe we'll talk about it a little bit. And I'm going to ask to see if maybe, too, I can do my lines live streamed for you all. I don't know. I would guess probably not, but doesn't hurt to ask. We'll see. But anyways, I'm going to run back upstairs and switch us back up there. We'll talk for a little bit, and then we'll get this show on the road. And then tonight, I'll be back here on TikTok doing some live stream narration of Book 2 of Matt's Magica, Light Shadow, fantasy series. So I'll talk more about that in a little bit too. Let's get out of this hot booth, and I'll meet y'all back upstairs here in just a little bit. Give me a second to run upstairs. I'll be right back.
Whew, made it back. Oh, I don't know if you can see, but I am melting. It was hot. It was a hot mamba jamba up in that booth. But hey, we made it. We made it out alive. Yeah, I'm still sweating a little bit. It gets a little warm in there. Let's have a drink of water before we sip on the whiskey. Hopefully you all enjoyed that story. The first chapter of it there. You can find that for purchase on Michael Kelso's website and on Amazon as well. But I believe on his website he has all the links there for you to track that down. And if you're watching this on the Big Red service, in the description down below, I'll have the link there for you as well. So, well, the first day with the new setup on the new machine didn't go too bad. But I have some technical difficulties I need to work out. I need to work out how I'm going to interact with chat on all these different places. So, you know, hey, it is what it is, especially like TikTok. I'm so sorry if you're on TikTok and you joined in. I just couldn't see chat. So my apologies. I'll get that worked out as well, so that I can at least see when you're joining and then, respond back as well. So, anyways, that was Misadventures of a Cryptid Hunter by Michael Kelso. Highly encourage you to check it out. It's fantastic. And then now we got about an hour's worth of work left to kind of polish that up and get it out as a demo that Michael can use in a promo or maybe some advertisement for that book, or maybe, just maybe, there might be a new book that he just released. We should talk to him about it. Hmm. Foreshadowing? Maybe. More information to come on that. Anyways, I think it's time to call it for the night. Thank you so much for joining me for Whiskey Wednesday. We enjoyed a nice Spirits of the Apocalypse Walking Dead whiskey, and we read from Michael Kelso's book, Misadventures of a Cryptid Hunter. It was fantastic. Highly encourage you to go check it out and buy yourself a copy if you enjoyed the reading tonight. And yeah, talk to you all next time. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Enjoy. And we'll see you all next Wednesday. See you then. Bye-bye, everybody.